Okay, so welcome to the first, Hans, you can step up, please. Welcome to the first day of our Congress. So today we're going to talk about, we have so much overtime, actually half an hour, so we have to cut a little bit here and there. But today we're going to introduce to you Stanislavsky and Hans Henriksen, or Hans Henriksen is going to enlighten us about Stanislavsky. Hans Henriksen is a professor here at KU. He's a leader of the directing department. He's also teaching actors, and his education is from St. Petersburg. And he also has a German wife, a Russian wife. So this guy knows a lot about both Russian culture and Stanislavsky. Don't you? Yeah, we can say that. I don't know, I mean, everyone here probably have some sort of relationship to Stanislavsky, and I want to make an introduction through an anecdote from my first meeting of Stanislavsky. Because, as I said earlier, I'm not an actor, I'm a literature scientist. And my intellectual upbringing was through German radical criticism and French deconstructivism. I don't know if you know what that means, but it basically means something like, don't trust authorities. Don't trust authorities. So when I just shortly after came to the theater school and started to teach here, it was a completely another way of thinking or dealing with this kind of thing. So it was the writing of Konstantin Stanislavsky was kind of in the center of every discussion. And it was not so much about whether it's right or wrong, or how did you understand him right or wrong. So that was kind of a new thing for me. And I don't want to judge that, but it's just a completely another field to deal with. And I was surprised and amused, and still am. But most of the traditional acting schools in Scandinavia uses Stanislavsky somehow as a foundation of the training. I don't think we should here now try to find out what Stanislavsky means or not, but we should kind of try to find out what kind of different perspective we have on Stanislavsky. And we all do have different understandings, I think. So I want to start to ask Hans about, I mean, we know that Stanislavsky is the founder of the acting pedagogic, and that he's a Russian director and actor. But I want to start to ask you about what do you think, what would you describe as the major contribution of Stanislavsky in the art of theater? Is that possible to answer?
There are so many Stanislavsky specialists here, so I'm a little bit. I feel it's very hard to say anything, but as far as I understand this question, my English is horrible, so you have to deal with it for another half an hour less than you should. I think that the main contribution is that he made it possible for the mind to deal with the will to get hold of the passions. Wow. So he sort of wanted all. He wanted to have tools to make it possible for you to grab the unconscious when you need it. That's the main contribution, I think, as I understand, for the actors, and also for the directors and for the theater workers as such. He wanted this strange subconscious thing to be under sort of somehow control. in a way. He wants to turn it on in a way, so that it can work. And you need it when you need it. You don't need it. You just don't. You can't just use it when you have it.
To use the unconsciousness as a form of resource, or find out how to use it as a resource?
Well, art is in a way, as in that time, and maybe that is old already, but I think still it is a very big part of the arts that you deal with the subconscious, and you need that is the field of the of what you are talking through in a way. And he wants, he tried, he saw some actors, because he started with acting as a problem, and he saw some actors who have this very special capacity of making this subconscious part of the human being, part of the staging or the performance they made. And he was very interested to understand how did they get it, or is it possible for normal people or normal talented people to train himself to grab this source or this powerful thing? Yes. So I think that is the main that he sort of tried to make not only acting training, speech and voice and body and all these classical things which you need to be on stage in certain ways, or big stage or whatever, which was very much the acting training before him. He wanted to make actors training training for getting hold of these subconscious things. Yes.
Throughout his career, he tried very many things and had tried out very many forms and way of teaching and learning and acting. And there has been different styles adapting from his different levels or periods in his careers. And if I understand it correctly, on this school, or we have had the pedagogue Irina Malochevskaya for a while, which you also were a student of. And so we are highly influenced of that part of the Stanislavsky legacy somehow. And this again comes from a big Russian director and pedagogue, Georgy Tostanogov. So what part of Stanislavsky's legacy is this? What does it represent? What does it emphasize?
Well, Georgy Tostanogov, he sort of thought and renamed a lot of the different parameters of his different methods and systems throughout the 60s and 70s, because it was a big problem in Russia then, that all these different words, which is a big part of the Stanislavsky legacy, became without content. They lost their content, or they didn't lose their content. They had different contents from everyone who used it, because as he thought that this very sort of specific parameters or words or whatever you call it, Stanislavsky used words from everyday life, and it is very easy to understand and very hard and very easy to misunderstand, and so the words itself became useless, and in a way they were used only as fighting tools to make yourself more important than you are, in a way. And so this problem of having a highly developed systems and methods with a lot of different tools and a lot of different parameters became very much in the Russian tradition, in Russian schools, in many schools, he felt very hard to discuss, hard to grab, hard to use, and they lost their real sort of meaning. So he in a way reinvented, or he made his own understanding of different words, and he developed new parameters. And as far as I understand, for the method of action analysis, his latest developments are maybe the most advanced, as far as I can understand, developments for this special tool, action analysis. So yes, he sort of developed it and rethought it in the 60s and 70s. He was working as a pedagogue all his life, from his very young age until his death. He was a big director, one of the biggest in the world at that time, and he had a big impact on the Russian theater. He was a mafia boss in a way in this Russian theater life. But he was a very creative actor, director, and also pedagogue for all his life. And my teacher Irina was sitting together with him 15 years. Yes, and she was very much the one who wrote down his developments for the late years, like Knepel did for Stanislavsky in the 30s. She did for him.
A book which you also translated
yes,
to Norwegian, right?
Yes, which is this director's school.
Director's school. It's huge. It's packed with precisely descriptions of terminology and words that is used in acting training. I'm not sure if we should go far into the terminology, but is it possible with simple words to try to describe what is the method of physical actions, which is kind of important?
Well, there is a lot of different understanding of that.
From the Tosamogo.
Well, in a way, it's if you ask someone who worked with Lutovsky, they will tell you something very different and use the same word. So you have the same sort of problem. There is a source, which is him, and there is so many ways of using that source for all kind of different talented people. So he opened up a lot of doors, and there's a lot of people going into that doors and coming out with totally different answers to all the different questions, to what he did with the system in the start, with the different methods in the development, and also, of course, of this last development, the method of physical actions, which in a way was started up in 1905 in this Pavarskoy studio with Meyerhold, where he suggested the possibility of doing analysis, not sitting around a table as they used to do in the 20th and in the beginning for many months, talking. Suggested, in spite of that, they should go very fast to improvise, suggestions of different understandings of scenes, of the events, and then through these physical improvisations, they should develop the analysis in a way. So it's a way of analyzing with the body, or it's a way of analyzing through improvisation. So it's an analyzing way of understanding, which the thought was that in the process of sitting talking, very often the actor get passive, and the director is
because Stanislavsky started with the round table discussions.
Yes. For many years they were doing that. It worked. They made many of the most famous performances were made that way. But he saw a lot of problems with it, and he was always developing. He was not stopping it. His legacy is not a closed, full developed system or methods or whatever. It's always moving, and that was he just saw that there's a big source in the subconscious of the actor, which is not used around the table. So if you want to analyze and get new inspirations, new impact on the problems, on the situations, on the events, you don't get all the possibilities or all the possibilities which is in the room when you have talented actors who doesn't use their body, they don't only use their mind in a way. So and when they start to improvise, they give more into the analysis process.
Again, a subconscious impulses.
Yes. It's a way of grabbing the subconscious. Yes. That's the way we understand it. And there's a lot of different ways of understanding this.
Okay.
But this is a way of, as we understand it, as I understand it, it's a way of analyzing with the body.
With the body. and what is the major shift of focus from method of physical action to the action analysis? If
well,
there is a...
the action analysis is one of the big achievements from Stanislavsky, as far as I understand, is that he made this action analysis system to translate a language of literature into a language of the stage or the theater. And for the languages of literature is the words written on the paper. For the language of theater, he invented a lot of different words and understandings, and one of the most important one is the word event. And he looked at the theater as an event and as and a show or a play or a stage, not a play but a show. What do you call it? A forestilling, spectacle. It's a series. It's a big event with a series of events inside them, and you sort of create events inside a concept. So the creation of theater is creation of events. It's not staging text. It's creation of events. And of course, in that time, the text was very important, and the dramatic text was very important. That was the main paradigm of the literature for theater. But so the main way of teaching this is through the dramatic theater or the dramatic text. But the main idea about it is that theater is creation of events, and the action analysis is a way of translate something which could be literature very often in our tradition, but it could be something else, into events and structure it.
And explore it and make it to a chain, maybe?
Yeah, make it to a chain and structure it in a certain way that you get it's a structure which is very Western, which is very Aristotelic in a way.
Does it forcibly need to be that?
Well, I suppose it's forced to be. You have parameters as the main action, the main action of the show, or the fight the spectators are looking at, and of course these things are in a way linear. So yes, in a way you could say it forces you, but not in a literal way. It doesn't have to be linear in a Suchet way. It's linear in a what do you call it? Energetic way. The will.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a will. I want something. So this will is linear in a way. So there is a philosophy around this, which I think is very Western. I don't know so much about East, but as far as I understand, all these different sort of critics against the Aristotelian system of writing, or against the linear forms of creating shows, spectacles. There is some very deeply Western understanding in this will thing. Yeah.
That's an interesting question, because we tend to talk about terms like goals. What is the character's goals in the scene, or an overall goal? And this emphasizes somehow that we are driven by will or subconscious impulses somehow, which has a goal. So already here we start to define human nature as something in the style of acting. So what if I don't accept this perspective? Would I still function in this method?
There is, of course, a lot of work for stage of performing arts which doesn't need this. As far as I can see, where these sort of ways of staging the actor is in the way. It's forcing them to do things which is not good for that kind of aesthetics. Yes. I think you can say that. I think it's wrong to say that this can be used for whatever. I would say it's very flexible. It's a lot more flexible than we understand, and than we are flexible ourselves. But still, there is something I can see when I see a performance in a different in the art fields, not in the theaters, just in the art fields. That kind of training maybe is not the right thing to do, because if you do some of that training not the right way, so it will have some impacts which could be problematic for that kind of art. I think so. I'm not sure about it, but I think so. The big question for me is somehow maybe I am not sure about if that problem is because of the aesthetics which comes out of some part of this way of thinking, or if it is a problem of how you train. Because I think the biggest questions for all these different Stanislavsky schools, I have been there in a lot of them, teaching. There are so much alike in the training principles, the ways of doing different, or what do you call it? The different training forms. So there is a lot of, you have big things which is discovered, dealing with energy, dealing with spiritual things, dealing with this will thing, or whatever you call it. It's not grabbable, but still he somehow grabbed it. But when he grabbed it, he also developed a lot of training tools, exercises. And those exercises are, of course, developed in a certain time, and has, I think, a lot of aesthetic impacts, which is a problem. I read newly a book from this Goebbels, which has been the professor of theater studies in Gießen. And he said, he's a musician, and he said the biggest problem for the musical field is that the musicians are learning techniques which they need very much on Mozart, Brahms, Liszt, and all these things. They are working on Mozart, Brahms, and Liszt from 5 years old until they're 22 or something only, and then they start to play new things. So the canon, the whole training period, they have been dealt with very old, very good, but very old aesthetics.
Do you think we are aware of the ideological and aesthetical consequences of the techniques or the exercises and so on?
I don't think we are aware enough about it, because if we start questioning it, we have to invent new ways of doing it, and inventing new ways of doing it is not so easy, because inventing it in the first place it was big inventions. It was not easy to find those exercises, and to find new one is not either not easy. So, but to question it is the first step, I think, to try to sort of renew it.
Another aspect of this, which I just want to bring up, is that we tend to teach students that you should not say and feel the same thing. I mean, in real life, we want to say and feel the same thing, but the words should not have the intention of the words. The subtext should be differently, for instance. So I just think the consequence of this is that somehow we look at the body, the language of the body, as more truthful or more connected to the subconscious word somehow. Does that mean that we don't trust words in our culture? Do you think is there something linked to this? And
my experience coming from Russia, it was that Norwegians are very naive and they trust every word. So it was the opposite. You know, it was very feeling that the sort of traditional theater in Norway was very illustrative, and it was very and it was said also by very major Norwegian directors that the word is in the center. So this word thing is very deeply connected to the Norwegian culture. I think it is because we have big authors like Ibsen and Hamsun and all these. They have been on the highest level, and of course maybe it's connected also to this our religion, Protestantism. I don't know, but so I don't agree with you that this is maybe something which we came with from Russia. And of course, in the Russian and the Soviet time, this was very, very special, because of it was not possible to say things with words. You could say it with bodies or other signs, but not with words. So it was a big tradition for a very special way of talking in the theaters. So I think that was also a problem here. We came from a space or zone where that was developed on a quite high level, because it was not possible to talk with words. So, but this theory about the body being more truthful than the words. The first time I read about it is an article of Meyerhold, and he was talking about directors' mise en scène and how important that was for the opening up of the underlying things in the play, because what was said is not what is in the play. That is not the play. The play is underneath. The play is the intention of the whole creation, and the director should open that up and relieve it for the stage, and that the physical sort of realization of that is the new art form which is developed by the director with the words of the author. So that was for him a big deal. He is in a way the father of the director's art, and that was a big furore in Russia when he put up the Revisor, and he said it was Revisor, Meyerhold, and then Gogol here, and that was Gogol. It was not someone
No.
small. So, but that was very important in that time to say that directing is an art form. It's not only staging text. You create mise-en-scènes, you create something new, and then this physical part was very important, because of course the physical part is new, the scenic part or whatever. It's not written there.
Yes, just one last question about the what we can call the aesthetics or the ideology. Torsten Logov, as we talked about, was, as you said, also a huge director, a huge star in the Soviet Republic.
In the world?
In the world as well. And he had a lot of prizes, and he was leader of Bolshoi Theater in St. Petersburg, which is now called the Torsten Logov Theater, right?
Yes.
But he was also somehow accepted and celebrated of the regime. To what extent do you think his aesthetics was somehow linked to the regime? Is this problematic or is it not? Or
after 1934, after Stalin, everything was horrible. It was the Russian avant-garde was, flowering. It was boom. It's. From 1917 to 1934, you could say that the directors' theater in the world had the same bloom as the Greeks when they were writing plays in 400 before Christ. It was fantastic what was going on, and it was awful what he did, because he literally killed them. He started with this aesthetic paradigm that it should be social realism, and Meyerhold in the 37 or 8, he said in this art conference, that he wanted to be a free artist. He wanted to develop, he wanted to experiment, he had the right to do that as an artist, and the year after he was killed. And of course they wrapped out enormous amount of scientists, artists, whatever, just killed them. So everything was problematic, and of course that had so big impact on the development for the theater form as such, and of course of Soviet theater. But somehow they found their ways out of it in the 60s and the 50s, also in the 60s. But of course this extreme search of experimenting, which was in the 20s, had no chance then anymore. So, and Meyerhold, he was not allowed to be read, or you couldn't mention him. But they started, of course, Torsten Logov started to talk about him in the 60s, and then they started to be interested in it again. So of course the whole community knew about it, dealt with it, but it was also all very, very problematic, of course, and that had a big impact on all the aesthetics of the Soviet area.
Stanislavsky somehow was in some kind of form of house arrest as well the last years.
Well, I don't know. Yes, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we don't have that much time, or we should crop the time a little bit. I have many more questions I would like to ask you, but I think we should maybe try open up for some questions from the audience. If you have some, before we take a break. Anyone?
Don't be shy.
Nobody has. We have microphones there, which we can send around. Nobody has a question. Okay. Then I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you, not Stanislavsky. What is a character?
It's a very, I think today, quite interesting question to answer, because you can answer it in the traditional way, as I have been taught to answer it.
What have you been taught then?
No, it's a way of thinking. It's a concept of thinking, which make you the person you are. So it's a character is to change your way of thinking. If you want to do that, change journey. The problem now is that the character and how we are trained to deal with the character development is through these characteristics, through the different animals or through different things, which is quite easy to grab, and then go on to the more hard things to do, which I think is quite good, but at the same time, I think the problem of our schools or schools' way of dealing with the characters is that they too closely look to the character as a sort of new individual, which is created in an imaginary situation of the imaginary theater. But I think the most interesting thing now is to find out a different approach to dealing with the audience, and then this different way of thinking, which you can grab if you are doing the change, how that different way of thinking is interacting with the audience.
So talk about the contract somehow, which the contract is defined in.
Yeah, well, the character as such, to develop this перевоплощение, что это по this word, you know that changing. It's this Russian transformation. Yes. This transformation thing is, of course, a fantastic thing, and when it happens, it's it's magic. But the problem is the way we talk. That's the same thought as I had before. That the problem is that the way we do it has been done now for 100 years, and it's creating an old theater.
Transformation.
Yes, when we do it, we do it certain ways. We do it in certain ways. We go certain paths to make it. Do different steps to make it. That kind of steps which was good for that time. So the problem of creating characters now is that why should we use them that way as we used them before? Am I talking now?
No, it's very interesting.
There is a problem of the techniques of training. That's my point of view, which makes the student or actor students too connected to the techniques we have, which is developed, and that is very much connected to the character work. I understand now that you're looking at me as an alien or something.
No. I find it very interesting. I find it very interesting, actually. It's of course important and interesting to question what we're doing somehow.
Yes.
And why we're doing it, and what it creates, and do we know what it creates somehow? And this is what I feel
but the problem is that we all have a certain picture of what is character building, and that picture is bad.
Okay. I'm interested in checking what the others pedagogues think about this. But we have two questions from the audience. First, Keller, would you grab a microphone maybe? Or no, you have such a great voice. Of course, it's a German acting training.
Ist eine interessante Frage nach dem Charakter und ich würde gerne ein bisschen provozieren.
It's a very interesting question about the character, but I would like to provoke you a bit.
Weil ich glaube, dass es a priori gar keine Charaktere gibt.
Because I believe a priori that there are no characters as such.
Sondern dass der Charakter sich ergibt aus der Summe der Beziehungen, die die Figur oder Rolle im Laufe des Stücks eingeht.
I believe the character is the sum of what happens on stage throughout the process.
Also ich behaupte, es gibt in dem Sinne, oder es gibt schon Charaktere, die sich da herausbilden, aber ich glaube, dass es auf der Bühne mehr um Beziehungen geht, genau wie im Leben auch.
I believe on stage it's more about relationships.
Und dass die Summe der Beziehungen dann am Ende den Charakter bildet.
And the sum of relationships in the end build the character.
Yes, I totally agree. The
Also ohne, gar nicht so Magic, ist nicht so viel Magic.
No, I understand, but as Stanislavsky writes about it, he sort of defends himself because he had a lot of critics telling him that he was not dealing with перевоплощение, this transformation, but he was dealing with themselves. That he was not dealing with form, that he was dealing only with nature in a way, like it was the actor it's himself, the development of the skills of that person being on stage. And he was opposed about that and said that that is not right. I was very concerned about the development of the actor as such in the beginning. And after that, what he calls the magic of the transformation is the most interesting part of the theater. And of course, in this context, there is a lot of different and very hard problematic questions because as I said in the beginning, as I understand it, the character is a way of thinking. It's not something which is somewhere there. It's a way of thinking. But Stanislavsky has very much had the critics that he was only dealing with impact, not form, and that this question about characters was very much set up against the question of я в предлагаемые обстоятельства, I in the given circumstances. This sort of mantra, I in the given circumstances, was very much criticized for a very long time. And I feel very much that the problem of that question or that statement, I in the given circumstances, because something with the theater, which is connected with this transformation, which is not I, it's something else, is very theatrical in its beginning. And very much of the critics of the Stanislavsky systems has been on that question. The question of, should we do this I in the given circumstances? For how long time should we do this I in the given circumstances? Isn't theater something else? Isn't theater a play? Isn't theater something which is not I, it's something else? It's me doing something which is not I. But on the other hand, you have these bad pictures of what is a character, which is haunting us and making all these transformations horrible. So this question is complicated because, of course, you can put on stage different eyes, which are quite interesting, and then these characters are meeting, and then all these big things are developing sort of new character. But still, there is a moment of playing, transformation, which could be lost.
Okay. Pia, you also have
Yeah,
a question?
I
Okay. Janne has a question?
You say it can be a problem in developing a character in this way, in this method, because it was made in the 1920s and often we can just stand still there if we use the same steps. So why are you still teaching it is one question, and number two, what are you doing to make it go forward, to find new ways in your way of teaching, so don't go back?
Well, In the last years I have been sort of moved a little bit because I'm very old man, moved a little bit away from the sort of normal theater in a way, in something which I have done, and then there is a different kind of working with how the actors are thinking around the materials, which is developing something new with them, which is a different sort of approach than I have done before myself. They are changing, they are doing this process of transformation. But the transformation is much more delicate and much more sober and much nearer themselves, and it makes it easier for me to look at it because I like it much more. But at the same time, I feel that I, in a way, avoid the problem. If you understand what I mean, that I just go to it very anxiously and very soft, just not to make it bad. But in a way, I feel that's because I like it like that. But in the way, for me, it's a very big problem to make that step over to something very theatrical, very big, very harsh. Maybe that's just part of me or my aesthetic understanding or whatever. I don't know. But I feel I'm shy of that, like doing all the dogs and hens and all these things.
So when you're going to teach, when you're going to have the workshop now, the student will think, you don't believe in what they're teaching us.
No, I believe it very much, but there is a lot of things.
You're open and you're researching in your.
No, I just suddenly. You know, I am not saying that. I'm just saying that. When I came from Russia, I had a big belief in what was right and wrong, and what was good theater and what was bad theater. And I saw a lot of good theater, and I thought it was very bad for many years, until I suddenly understood it's good. It's something wrong with me. And a lot of those things I thought was bad I think now is is good. So this I very much for myself try now to disconnect the main understandings or the main findings of the schools I have been through, which is dealing with spiritual things, which is dealing with wills, which is dealing with goals and all these things, from the aesthetics of the traditions which I am, which is me. I would very much like to do those disconnections very much more brave than I'm doing, but because I feel a problem with how we're doing it, not what we're doing.
And I also think that what is making like teaching in the classes is maybe not the method, but also the pedagogues. I think it's also important to emphasize that. If there is no more urgent, up there.
Øystein.
You say normal theater. For me, it's a very problematic point to say to use this word.
Normal theater?
Normal theater.
What does the term normal theater means?
It's bad term.
Sorry, it's a bad
I said that. I'm sorry.
In the mind, so I'm interested in the image about normal theater, because I think
I have said that a lot of times, or one time?
Once, and I
Okay,
think you
once.
meant Western.
What?
I think you meant Western, this traditional from the
Well, I don't want to say normal
I
theater.
think you mean Stanislavsky.
No.
You mean Chekhov.
It has nothing to do with that. Maybe I said it when I talked about coming back to Norway and seeing text theater. Maybe that's what the word normal theater. But I don't like that word. It's nothing. Nothing. It's not worth
I
anything.
think there are also very different approaches.
Of course. Yes. Totally agree. Sorry. What?
I was interested in the position, not to make it correct.
One more time.
I was interested in the position.
Interested in a position. She was interested in your position.
My position is that no.
But I don't. Maybe we should not get into a long discussion here now because we are so much over time.
Okay.
It's great what you're bringing in and also you. But next phase of this conference now today is the huge panel discussion, so we can go further there.
Okay.
With discussion between the pedagogues and then also the people of the audience. I think it was very nice to hear you, Hans, and also great to hear that you're reflecting around your own work and perspective. That's a really humble and great thing to do. So I see you after. How long break do we take? 4, 5. Okay, so it's just out to the toilet and half of a cigarette, okay? And then we're back.